Hey guys, Terry here with Ascension Healing Center. I am a sound healer and an energy healer. And today I'm doing a video about gongs. I want to give a description between the Chinese Chau gongs and the Paiste planetary gongs. I have a couple reasons for doing this. Number one is I sell these, so I want to have people to have some sort of information that gives them a reference point for the different sounds between the Chau and the Paiste planetary gongs, and also to have some type of reference for the size that they may want to select. So I hope this video helps you if that's what you're looking for. And if you're interested in purchasing any, in the About section down below, you will find a link to my website and you can contact me there. Second reason for doing this video is, as a sound healer, I always love to have a little bit more information that I can gather about what other types of instruments that I may want to use in my practice. So for those of you that are not currently using gongs, maybe this will help you decide that, hey, I'd love to have a gong in my lineup. And there's actually another reason why I do this video. I like it. I like doing videos. So I'm going to do it and have some fun. So let's get started with the Chau gongs. These would be made with mostly recycled metal, about 80% copper and about 20% tin. They'll melt the metal down and pound it out into shape. And if the camera was a little closer, you'd see all kinds of little hammer marks here. The hammer marks help to change the pitch and the tone of the gong. But these gongs, the Chinese Chau gongs, are not tuned to a specific frequency. They're just hammered out until they sound pleasant. The oxidizing that you see here, all the black on the outer edge and in the center, is natural from just the metal being heated and treated the way that it is. The stripped away here, that kind of creates like a bullseye. This is actually what they do. They put this on a lathe, they spin it around, and they strip away part of the oxidation. That actually changes the sound of the gong. If this was not stripped away, it would sound a lot darker, and you wouldn't get as much of the high tones out of it. And moving along to the Paiste gongs, these are made in a different way. The material comes from a rolling steel mill. So same type of process, but just a little bit different and a little more thorough for making a higher quality product. The metal would be mixed about 60% copper, about 20% zinc, and about 20% nickel. And the name, the rolling steel mill, is exactly what it sounds like. It's a rolling steel mill. So they put the material together, melted, and then they compress it through a couple of rollers. And what that does is that binds the molecules of the metal very, very tightly. So you get a higher quality product, a higher quality metal to work with. These Paiste planetary gongs, one that you see up here as well, they would be less prone to fissures and cracks in the metal as compared to the Chinese Chau gongs. Still a good product, nothing wrong with these. But these are just a higher quality metal, that's all that it is. The difference in sound, there's a large difference in sound, and that's mainly to do with the type of metal that's used. With less copper and the addition of the zinc and the nickel gives it a different mixture, so the metal vibrates differently. With the tin, again, creates a bit of a different sound. So this is a 22-inch Chau gong, and this small one over here is a 20-inch Chau gong, and this is a 26-inch Chau gong, and the one over there up against the wall is a 38-inch, and the one on the bottom, I don't know if you can see it in the camera or not, is only 36. For the Paiste planetary gongs, we have a 36-inch Pluto, 32-inch Saturn, and a 24-inch Uranus. Now, correlating to the planets is frequencies, figured out by a Swiss mathematician and astrologist by the name of Hans Cousteau. And that's who Paiste has gotten their calculations from and their numbers from as far as the tuning and the frequency goes. And these gongs are tuned specifically to these planets based on the work of Hans Cousteau. So these would be tuned. Now you can buy symphonic gongs, basically the same sound, but it's just not going to be specifically tuned. So the size kind of dictates the depth of the sound that you get out of the gong. The bigger the gong, the more low end and bass that you're going to get. And the smaller the gong, the easier it's going to crash, and it can actually end up sounding a little bit tinny if it is too small of a gong, which you'll find in the 20 and 22 inch Chau gongs here. So let's go ahead and give a little description in the sound. It'll be a little demo. And you'll notice, like I say, these Chau gongs, the 22 and the 20, are going to sound a little tinny. If that's not what you're looking for, then you're going to want to get a 26 inch and above. Okay? Let's go ahead and hear those one more time. Now, the type of mallet that you use to strike the gongs with also makes a difference. This is a Vic Firth Sound Power CB1, I believe it is, or GB1. It looks a little big, but it's actually kind of light. It's very soft material. There's not a lot of density to it, so it's not very heavy. So it's really good for a medium to small size gong when you want to get the low end out of them. Also, it stops it from giving like a slap sound when you hit the gong, and I'll show you what I mean. Most of these Chinese Chau gongs will come with a very small mallet, and it'll be very, very hard. It'll look something like this. And this one would be about the appropriate size for a 20 inch. Just go ahead and give it a tap. You hear that slap? That's because the material is just not as high quality as one of these ones. And this would be a harder mallet still. It won't sound very nice. We'll go back to a nice, soft, heavier mallet. Right away you can tell the difference in the body of sound with the difference between even these sizes. Going from a 20 inch to a 26. So if you were looking to buy a gong for your own personal use or for sound healing purposes, either for private sessions or for groups, you would want to pick and choose your size of gong that you want to work with based on whether you're going to be traveling or not. If you had a 38 inch and you're going to be traveling a lot with that gong, remember that the gong is heavy and you're going to have some way of transporting it. You're going to have a vehicle that can have enough room to be able to carry a gong that size, to put it in, to fit it in. There's other things that you want to consider too, the size of the room that you're going to be playing the gong in. If you own a yoga studio and you have a 2,500 square foot studio, then a 26 inch gong is probably going to leave you feeling pretty disappointed because it's not going to have enough volume to fill the room unless you put it through an amplification system. In a small room like this, no amplification is really needed. As you can see, I do have a good sound system here, but hey, I'm a Scorpio and I like to take things to the extreme, so I certainly live that up. And when we compare the difference in the size of the gongs, you'll see that they get a lot more body and a lot more robust sound and a lot more low end as you go larger. So let me show you what I mean between a 26 and a 38. So Chau gongs get a little darker as you get larger. They still have some bright tones to them, but as you can tell when you give it a good strike, it's got a lot of low end and it's has a little bit of a dark sound to it. And you can really open them up. Once you get into a large gong like this, if you do happen to own a yoga studio or you're a sound healer and you're going to use them for groups, a 38, a 36 inch, those are big gongs. If you're in even a decent sized room, like up to 1,500 square feet or so, you probably don't really need a sound system unless you want to use one, and that's a whole different story. Maybe I'll do a video about using a sound system with gongs one day, but for most people, you probably won't need to amplify them. But if you're like me and you just like to take things to a whole new level, then go for it. So it gives you a nice description between the different sizes of the Chau gongs and the different sounds. Obviously the larger ones are going to carry a little bit more bass and they're going to be a lot more fuller in their sound. Moving along to the Paiste planetary gongs. This one is the Uranus gong. You can tell a difference in the sound quality. I find that the Paiste planetary gongs are more refined. They just have a smoother sound to them. It doesn't mean that they're any better. I love the Chinese Chau gongs. Obviously, I love them. I have several here, and I find that as a sound healer, different sounds will resonate with different people, with different emotions, and with different energies. So I like diversity. If you were only going to start with one gong, I would recommend a 32 inch, which would be the Saturn one down here. And I'll give a sample of what it sounds like. Smaller gongs will tend to crash a little quicker than a larger gong. That's why I say if you're going to go with one gong, start with about a 32 inch if you can. And that's because a larger gong is going to be a little bit more forgiving if you tap it a little too hard. It's also going to give you a little bit more diversity when it comes to sound. You're going to be able to play with it and get the low end out of it by tapping it very gently and spacing your strikes a little more further apart, and you'll be able to sustain that low end. Up, you just start to make the strikes a little bit closer together. Probably hard to tell over the internet and through a recording like this, but there is still a fair amount of low end that even comes out of a good quality small gong. And a 24 inches, it is a small gong, but you do still get some pretty decent low end out of it. If you're ever going to use it without an amplification this is about 150 square feet in here. You do a private session in a room this size with a small gong like this, it's going to sound okay. But if you try to move it into a yoga studio or a larger space, it's like I say, 1,000 square feet or more, it's not going to be very impressive. And then moving over to the 36-inch. I do notice a difference between the amount of control that I have over the low end with the 36 compared to the 32. I can really draw the low end out of this and continue to draw the low end out of it for quite a while before it starts to build. Give you a little demo while I got the video going about the different sounds you can get out of some of the gongs. These are called flumies, basically a rubber ball on a stick. There's different qualities and different consistencies of the material that's used. Some are a little firmer and harder than others, and like this one here, the colored one, you get what you pay for. It's cheap, it's already starting to kind of wear away and peel a little bit. I use these ones for the Chinese Chau gongs. I find they give a better grip. And these ones are a little bit harder surface, and I find that just because they're a little harder, they make it a little bit smoother, and I find that it gives a better sound on the Paiste gongs. But you can get some cool sounds out of your gongs with them. Anyway, I hope that gives you a little bit more info when it comes to making a selection on the size of the gong and the style of the gong that you may be looking for. Like I say, there's different applications in my own personal experience for the Chinese Chau gongs versus the planetary gongs. It's a preference is what it all comes down to. Which one do you prefer to work with? Maybe you prefer to work with both. And if you do, and you can get more than one gong, great. Like I said, if you're going to start out and you just want to have one gong, I do recommend a 32-inch. It's a good size. It'll give you a lot of low end and a lot of depth. It'll also give you some really nice highs when it comes to really getting the gong to crash and open up. And it's easy to transport. You know, speaking from experience, I've played at several places and taken the 38 and the 36 and maybe a couple of these and, you know, one of these with me along with some bowls and crystal bowls and everything. You're making a few trips upstairs, you're working to get the 38 and the 36-inch Chau gongs. They're heavy. They're a denser material than the Paiste planetary gongs, and they can start to get pretty heavy. They're probably close to 50 pounds for one of the bigger ones, and once you're lugging those up the stairs time after time, you start to appreciate a nice light 32-inch. It's only about 30 pounds or so. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, post it below. I'll try my best to answer them for you. And happy gonging.